Hello everybody, my name is Consonant, and I had a ton of fun playing the Back 4 Blood Alpha. I put a ton of time into it, and in this video I'm going to talk about my thoughts and suggestions for what the devs could do to make the game better. Alright, first and foremost, I want to talk about the new vendor system and the items. So, the vendor system is something that I enjoyed, but I believe some prices need some adjustments. For starters, frags are so good. So good in fact, that I absolutely in no situation would take a molly or firecrackers over a frag. Especially if I need to buy them. Frags are the cheapest and the most potent throwable by far. I don't believe the frags need a nerf, however. Mollies and firecrackers need buffs. Price adjustments and slight buffs of potency should be enough. I think firecrackers should be 100 copper, molly should stay at 150, and frags should be 200. As it stands, firecrackers are kinda useless. They need to last longer, 1 second longer at most, I think. Currently they offer almost no breathing room, which is the whole point of them anyway, right? Mollies are mostly fine. I'm not sure if they could use a buff in spread distance. Rather, I believe the commons should fall immediately at death to reduce the clutter on the screen, and perhaps deal slightly more damage to the special infected that walk through them. Bandages are a waste of copper in my opinion. Why would I spend 150 for 30 health when I could spend 100 for 50 borrowed health? Again, I don't think it's something that needs a buff, but a price adjustment. 100 copper for bandages and 125 for pills perhaps could be a good solution. I do believe that pills are actually more beneficial than bandages as it stands. Ammo upgrades are too expensive, plain and simple. 300 is probably fine for them. 500 copper is crazy high for 10% ammo increase for just one ammo type. In the same vein, ammo packs are crazy expensive too. Not sure exactly what price they should be though. I just know I would never waste money on them, and I didn't see anyone else buying them in the alpha. I'm not sure on the pricing adjustment because I don't know how much ammo they give. Which leads me to my next point about vendors. The descriptions need to be more clear. A lot of descriptions for attachments, items, etc. should give more information so the player knows exactly what they're getting. Directly tell the player how much bandages, pills, and medkits heal for. Let them know how much the weapon stock increases, decreases, weapon swap time, etc. This is vital information that was annoying not to have in the alpha, and made me unsure of what to buy in the vendor sometimes, or if I should swap for one version of a gun for another that I might have found on the ground. Also, allow us to ping items in our inventory that we need. Mostly to easily let our teammates know we need ammo or copper if we don't have a mic. Bots are also programmed to drop ammo that you need, so the ping system could be helpful in getting ammo from bots as well. One last thing to note, please allow us to use WASD instead of the arrow keys to navigate the vendor menu. You could also have Q and E switch the tabs to allow us to easily shop without moving our left hand. The spacebar already purchases items, so this change makes sense. And I'm sure potential speedrunners of this game will thank you a lot for it. The card system feels pretty good. I like the customization to help fit different playstyles, and I like that most cleaner attributes can be found in cards as well. So it doesn't feel like any one cleaner is significantly stronger than another. However, the move speed mixed with the free breakout that Evangelo gets had me picking him as often as possible. I do think that team cards should clearly say if they don't stack. For example, Blood Donor and Trophy Hunter do not stack. You only need one person to draw it. Any more and you're wasting cards. People didn't seem to pay attention in pub lobbies, as I would see 3 Blood Donor cards nearly every single game. Me being the only person that didn't draw one. I'm interested to see the card system completely fleshed out in the full game. However, as someone that has a lot of competitive experience under my belt in Left 4 Dead, Versus mode is my main concern. I'm not sure how well the cards will work in Versus, because it adds too much randomness to the game. It wouldn't be fun to play against a team that managed to draw 4 team health cards and 4 canned good cards right off the bat. They would right away be at such an advantage. Cards are an awesome concept for campaign, but I hope you don't throw competitive players under the bus because you've spent so much time working on this system. I don't want to say too much about Versus though, since we didn't have access to it in the alpha. After playtesting the card that increases accuracy but disallows the use of ADS, I would say it feels pretty bad on the controller. Perhaps you could allow for the ADS slowdown to take effect if holding the trigger or mouse 2 down, but not actually zoom in. The slowdown effect would make this card much better for controller players. Another thing to mention about using controller, on PC specifically, is when you are picking a card at the start of each map, your hidden mouse pointer can screw with you. This is very annoying because we have to always move our hand over to our mouse to pick a card. Overall, I'd say the cards were pretty balanced. Some cards were clearly stronger than others, but I think that's intentional, i.e. team cards. However, I think the card Dance All Day is better than it's supposed to be. I found myself using that card as often as I could. The game actually felt bad if I didn't have that card active. I'll explain more about it while talking about cleaner gameplay, which is my next point. All cleaners have a distinct set of attributes, but can mostly be ignored if it doesn't fit your playstyle. It's nice to have a main cleaner that fits your playstyle, but you don't feel too bad if you start playing someone else. For example, I'm not a fan of melee weapons. If I played Holly, I could just ignore her attributes and play like I normally do without feeling like I was significantly hurting my team. This is a very good thing to keep players in a game if they aren't playing who they normally do. With that being said, I think Evangelo has by far the best attributes of anybody in the game, because he has Breakout, card for free, and has increased move speed. Add that to Dance All Day and Dash, and you are zooming around the map without the need to sprint, so stamina isn't a concern. I notice in this game, it's not easy to tell when you're on your last strike, or as Left 4 Dead players would know it, black and white. I think there should be something very obvious to the player letting them know if they go down again they will die. Could be something as simple as texting at the top of their screen saying last strike for a couple seconds. Teammates should have a faint silhouette at all times or something easy to identify. It's too easy to mistake them for common. I found myself shooting teammates because I had mistaken them for common too many times. Now let's talk about movement for a bit. In this game, firing a weapon causes you to slow down. This effect is even more potent if you strafe side to side or try shooting while moving backwards. This movement penalty you accrue from moving and shooting mixed together feels a bit too strong. I feel like I can't move, and it doesn't feel good in a fast-paced zombie shooter. Dance All Day negates the movement effects, and jumping negates the shooting slowdown. So I found myself always jumping around the entire map, firing in bursts, or just using a shotgun, as it's really easy to time when to shoot. I think the movement debuffs need to be either toned down so they aren't so potent, or just completely removed. I know what you're thinking. Then you can just run away from the ridden too easily. With only one SI in this game that can pin, common need to be strong to compensate. Well, I'll get to that eventually, but first, I want to talk about gunplay. The guns overall feel awesome in this game. I love that the Tier 1 weapons are viable. As a huge fan of the pump shotgun from Left 4 Dead, I love that I could start with the TAC 14 and keep it for the whole game if I wanted to, and I wasn't missing out on DPS for not swapping guns. The Uzi also feels really strong and good to use in this game. The AK, M4, M16, and even the M1A feel great too. I enjoy the variety of guns and really enjoy that no guns seem to outshine any others. Even pistols are good to use, especially the full auto Glock and Tag 9. This gives me high hopes for what's to come in Versus mode. Possibly no need to outright ban or get rid of the use of some guns like was the case for competitive Left 4 Dead. I personally don't mind the ammo types. In fact, for campaign, it's fun to cooperate with teammates to ensure you all have a healthy ammo pool. And thinking about what guns to take on Nightmare mode adds a sense of teamwork that was missing from Left 4 Dead Expert mode. I'm not going to talk about Nightmare mode in detail in this video, but I want to say, without experiencing it in the full release, I'm hesitant to say it needs any significant adjustments. I'm sure the AI director is spawning too many wretches and tall boys simply because it wants to spawn other things too, but those other special infected just aren't in the game yet. However, I would like to see ways to recover trauma damage, or at least make it easier to find loot rooms. Trauma damage is brutal on the harder difficulties. Okay, back to gunplay. The only gun that needs any type of buff, in my opinion, is the RPK. That gun was not fun to use at all and felt so bad. I didn't see anyone else rocking that gun throughout the alpha either. Poor hipfire accuracy, slow firing, long reload time, for just a 40 round mag. It felt so lackluster compared to every other gun that I had no interest in playing with it after the first few times I tried it. Now on to melee. Melee was significantly nerfed in this game compared to Left 4 Dead. And I love that. You can't just melee once and walk away from an entire horde anymore. You can't just sit in a corner and turn on God mode anymore. You have to keep moving, and this makes the gameplay not only more interesting to play, but more interesting to watch. And I'm sure will allow for more opportunities for attacks as the ridden. In Left 4 Dead, getting dead stopped by 4 people at once all sitting in a corner was probably the worst thing about the game. PC was lucky because it was able to add melee fatigue after just 2 melees. Console players didn't have that luxury. we were forced to suffer through the melee spam. I don't really want to see melee change in any significant way, however, it doesn't feel good when nearly every time you kill with a melee weapon, the common is also able to hit you back. I really didn't want to use melee weapons at all because of this. Alright, let's talk about the common. The common should have as much stopping power as they used to in Left 4 Dead. In Left 4 Dead, you knew when you were hoarded and had to get them off of you, or when you were in the clear and could keep moving. In this game, however, they only slow you slightly when you get hit, so you never truly know if you're in their reach or not, causing you to take loads of damage from behind when you feel like you shouldn't. It really makes a decision to run or turn and shoot a hard one. Will I get away far enough to avoid more damage, or do I absolutely need to turn around now if I want to stop taking damage? Was something that I asked myself many times throughout the alpha. To counteract the immense damage that a horde of common can do in this game, if they were to stop you much more harshly like they did in Left 4 Dead, they could deal less damage per hit based on how many common are hitting a player at one time. This would allow for a consistent DPS from the common, and it would stop the player from feeling like they got decimated from one horde. In this game, a horde of around 10 common can honestly down you so fast. I really like the common being an actual threat in this game, but the stopping power they have in this game feels bad. I would like to see some type of change to make that split-second decision making while dealing with them a bit easier. Also, commons seem to be a bit buggy if you are above them. Even small elevation differences can cause them to not attack you at all. Now that we've talked about common, let's talk about the special infected, the big boys. The special affected probably need the most work out of anything else in this alpha. I'm sure at this point you've all seen most of the complaints. Hard to counter tall boys, hard to look at hawkers, getting loogied by a hawker feels impossible to avoid, getting hit by a tall boy doesn't feel fair either. I'm no different. I have these same complaints. Firstly, the tall boy feels unfair because he has a hidden AoE when he slams. I'm not 100% sure on this, but it seemed like that's the only part of his ground pound attack that actually hurts you. It would be so nice and get rid of any confusion if this area of effect was clear and visible each time he slams the ground. The player would know, oh yeah, I was in the AoE this time. In the alpha, it felt like he was constantly long-arming me until I realized it's an AoE attack. To add on to countering tall boys, please make his dash more discernible so it's possible to more easily decide on how you want to move. Hawkers are by far the most annoying SI. They need a distinct sound cue, like hunters when they are getting ready to hawk their loogie. Or when they have line of sight on the cleaners, we should be able to hear that they have line of sight on the cleaners. It would help a lot with being able to track where they are. The trail of spit simply isn't enough to track them down reliably. I also want to note how bad it feels to get loogied in a not easy to reach spot, or that bots actually have no clue how to save you. Wretches may need some numbers tweaked, but they felt a lot more reasonable in counterplay. Just move while it's puking, or shoot it in the weak spot. I'd still like to see them make more noise, and possibly a nerf to their range. I seriously have been sniped from 70 plus meters away by them. It's madness. Also, add a silhouette to the bile on the ground, or the walls, and also add a silhouette to your teammates if they have bile on them. Lastly, the ogre. Honestly, I didn't find the ogre fun to fight at all. He's easy to run by, or easy to sit behind a doorframe and just shoot at him until he goes away. It just felt like a time sink more than anything else. I don't have much to say other than I'm nervous to see how the ogre works in versus. Now that we've discussed the core gameplay mechanics, let's take a look at some settings I'd like to see added. First and foremost, I'm happy to see the controller settings that have been added to the game. However, I think there still needs to be more. At least add the ability to change dead zones, and change the response curve. Even adding a few preset response curves would be nice. Also, allow us the ability to turn on and adjust aim acceleration. This would bring the controller customization into the standard of most modern shooters. Lastly, as far as controllers are concerned, give us the option to turn off aim assist on common, or off completely. I'd also like to see the ability to change gore. Could be something like full, reduced, off. I really don't like the clutter of all the commons' heads popping and blood splattering everywhere. As someone that likes to focus on my own gameplay over how nice a game looks, it's a bit distracting, and I really don't like that the cleaners become covered in blood pretty fast during each map. Allow us to change the font of the subtitles, and perhaps add a classic mode to make it look like the subtitles from the original Left 4 Dead. Honestly, in this game they are so hard to notice at all. Not exactly settings, but something I really want to mention. Add a kill feed to campaign. It really does help with keeping track of what to be wary of. And although this is pretty nitpicky, but I'd like to see you change the kill feed from the passive voice to the active voice, like, well, pretty much any other kill feed ever. What I mean is, currently it'll say something like Hoffman picked up by Walker, but I'd much rather it say Walker picked up Hoffman. In my opinion, it allows me to much more quickly parse the information at the top right of my screen, as my brain is so used to kill feeds being read from left does action, right had action done to them. But in this game, it's reversed. Okay, lastly, let's talk about just some random miscellaneous thoughts I have. So let's just get this one right out there. I think the minigun on the Evansburg finale needs to be removed, or nerfed in some meaningful way. Too many times I would see someone sitting on that thing the moment they put it down until we finished the map, or all of us died. The game encourages them to sit there and be essentially useless to the team because the military says to use it. This was by far the most annoying part of the finale, and it made it exceptionally harder than it needed to be. Add that to the fact that most people I play with seem to have no idea that we need to pick up the C4 and go plant it. The finale felt frustrating to say the least in pub matches because of these two things. Perhaps allow one person to pick up both charges of C4 as well. Items on the ground need to be easier to pick up. This is just something I noticed. It would be a nice quality of life change. Snitches need a way to reliably kill them without setting them off, outside of just whipping a frag at their feet. I can't count the times where I walked up to one, shot it point blank with a shotty, for it to somehow still set off and alert the horde even though it says it died. Climbing needs to not be automatic, or at least add options in the settings like hold space to climb or double tap space, or whatever. I died a few times because I mantled over something I really didn't want to mantle over. Crescendos, alarms, and crows should probably be toned down slightly. The horde that would come seemed too heavy considering how often they happened on each map. I don't want to see a big change because these things will happen less as people become more experienced, although I'd like to see something done about the fact cleaners can accidentally trigger alarms through multiple walls and floors. Last thing I want to mention, I would love to see some type of viewable combat record with things like games played, games won, ridden killed, revives, favorite weapon, cleaner, damage done to cleaners, etc. It should be easy to view each other's combat records as well. And lastly, let the stats from the alpha and upcoming beta transfer over, please, for me, your biggest fan.